You're in the MCU. You have the biggest chest of toys imaginable.
But there's one cameo that made me throw up in a good way.
At the end of when the Duffers pitched the story of season 5, nobody wasn't crying.
This Wolverine let down his entire world.
Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback?
Go fuck yourself.
I mean, talking of the tone of the movie, something that really struck me was how quickly and directly you dealt with the end of Logan. Why was that decision made? Why was that important for you?
It was a very early idea that Ryan and I got very excited about. The idea of, because we came to this, as soon as Hugh said he was in, we knew that we had to protect Logan. And we wanted to, frankly, acknowledge our reverence of that movie, not touch that ending, but also have some Deadpool audacious fun with it. And so we knew that we wanted this movie to start in a certain place. And once we had that idea, and Kevin Feige and Marvel and everyone was like, oh yeah, this is how a Deadpool movie has to start, right here with this shot. It got us very excited, and we knew that there would be no mistaking the tone of this movie right out of the gate.
Absolutely. And what was Hugh's first reaction to that?
Laughed his ass off. Laughed his ass off, because as you also saw in later scenes with McFadden and in the TVA, we acknowledge the events of Logan. And in fact, we acknowledge our reverence for the movie Logan. And so I think it's really clear that as a filmmaking team, there's nothing but love and respect. But as a Deadpool movie, we are duty bound to be subversive. And so the whole movie is really striking that balance between subversive audacity and fanhood of the MCU, fanhood of Logan. And so that was really the fun of this movie, is constantly balancing.
That exactly leads into my next question, because that's something I really love about the tone. It's to feel like it's such a difficult balance to strike. And you had so much fun, I think, with the MCU now officially. There are some lovingly fun moments poking fun at the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
I wondered, what was it like to sort of show those jokes to someone like Kevin Feige?
I actually remember the first time. Kevin visited us here in the UK. We were at Pinewood, and we showed him that scene where Deadpool is acknowledging that maybe it's not been a string of recent hits. And I remember kind of, my eyes were on the screen, Kevin's over there on the couch, and I'm sneaking looks, kind of praying that he laughs and doesn't cry. And he laughed his tail off. And what I realized is, the thing with Kevin on this movie is he knew exactly what he was getting. He knew that for it to be the best Deadpool Wolverine movie, it needed to be faithful to the tone. And that everything is on the table, including Marvel. And to his credit, the only rule was, if it's funny, funny wins. And he's been an incredible partner.
Was there anything in particular you were nervous to show him?
Well, that was one where we talk about the recent string of Marvel releases. There were a few others. The thing about Deadpool is it's such an equal opportunity offender. But there's another line that you saw where Deadpool actually welcomes Wolverine. And he says, welcome to the MCU, by the way. You're joining at a bit of a low point. When we pitched that line to Kevin, he laughed. And I think the key about the Deadpool franchise, starting with the main titles from Deadpool 1, starring God's Perfect Idiot, is if you're willing to mock yourself, you have license to do so much. And Ryan has always had that willingness to make fun of himself first and foremost.
Peter's back. Where do we find him at the beginning of this film?
You find him selling cars. With fellow employee Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. So yeah, I mean, I think the film begins in a place that might surprise people, in a situation where the only way to go is up. And but yeah, it's fun seeing Wade and Peter in a sort of domestic bliss / ennui to start.
Yeah, I was going to say they've always had a sort of an interesting, strange relationship. How much weirder does that get in this film?
Weirder, okay. I don't know that it gets that. I mean, it gets like stronger and longer, because there's more Peter in this film than there was in the second one. But yeah, they're very close. It's not a relationship of equals, you know. I mean, Deadpool drives the car, you know, and the motorcycle, and Peter's in the sidecar, so to speak. But yeah, Deadpool leans on Peter, and Peter really cares quite a bit about Deadpool, so it's nice. They have a nice friendship.
There's so much talk about cameos in this film.
Yes.
What can you tease about one of your favourites?
What can I tease about them? There's one for like, okay, I'm 47, right? So, which means I'm elderly. And there's one where I was like, what? Like, I found out, and I like drafted a letter and put it in a drawer to give to a friend of mine for when I can legally tell him. He's gonna be so excited. Another old man friend of mine. So there's things in here for people who haven't even seen movies since the inception of like the real MCU. I mean, they do stuff. It's so bananas. So I don't know how to say that without spoiling it, but there's one cameo that made me throw up in a good way.
Love it. I think that sells it well, I think.
Yeah.
While I've got you super quickly, I'm a huge fan of Stranger Things as well.
Right.
We've got season 5 coming.
Yeah.
Not too
I
far
know,
away.
not too far away, but also not soon enough. I acknowledge that.
Thinking about how it ends, obviously, not spoiling anything, can you tell me how fans might be feeling towards the end of, as the credits roll on that final episode when we bow out?
I mean, I can just tell you what I was doing at the end of when the Duffers pitched the story of season 5. Nobody wasn't crying, including me. Not a dry eye in that room.
So I can't wait. Just getting back to Deadpool, there's been a lot of talk about cameos. What can you tease about one or two of your favourites?
Wow. I'm thrilled to say that some of them are not predicted on the internet. And I think my favorite ones are ones that really are not cameos. They are characters. And they are in these supporting roles that we didn't show you so far, that somehow the world doesn't know about yet. And what I'm proud about is you get the thrill of, oh my God, it's them. But it's them supporting this Deadpool Wolverine story. And so that was very much always the North Star, is only include these surprising Easter eggs and characters when it serves story. And I think we pulled it off.
Yeah. Is there anything you cut, or any scenes or storylines that were significantly changed, do you remember, from the first script?
Very little. I think there was a very small scene involving Peter towards the end of the movie, and we paid off Peter in a different way ultimately in the edit, because we love us our sugar bear. Very little. Like recently the folks at Disney were like, oh, can you now gather your deleted scenes? Because we want to put them, out. And we're like, there's like one.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we worked so hard for so long on this screenplay. Mm-hmm. So the movie we shot was very much the architecture we worked so hard on.
Yeah. What do you, I know this film is just coming out. What do you see or hope for the future of Deadpool?
Oh boy, right now I'm just hoping that audiences feel we gave them a true Deadpool movie that is different in that it really embraces this two-hander, and that this team up that we have all been waiting for so long satisfied all our wants and yearnings and dreams of how delicious, joyous, battle-tested, action-packed, and funny this team up could be. Beyond that, if we did our job, then I guess anything's possible for the future. And I'm excited for whatever that might be as both a filmmaker and as an audience member.
Do you have any ideas at the moment, or is it just sort of seeing what happens?
We always have ideas.
Good to hear. And you mentioned about, of course, Ryan and Hugh. What's their dynamic like being on set?
I mean, the only thing I would say is, in spite of their online feud, they are loving friends. And so they're always warm and respectful to each other. So if anything, where it took a stretch was the huge chunks of the movie where Deadpool and Wolverine want to kill each other. And so building that animosity on screen is very different than what I saw every day on set, which was pretty much nothing but love.
And what was the biggest challenge for you when doing this one?
I think the challenge is you're in the MCU, you have the biggest chest of toys imaginable, director dream, but being disciplined and only pulling out the toys that the story wants, because if you pull out too many, then it becomes gratuitous and it becomes messy and the audience can never plug in and invest in the story. So finding that balance was the key and also the challenge.
You mentioned, of course, the MCU. We're fully there now. Peter is fully in the MCU. I've got a theory that he could potentially just defeat all of the big bads in the MCU now.
I think that is founded. I think that's a sound theory. I think Peter has strengths that we're only beginning to discover. And also, you talk to the fans, they're not, not a lot of people are talking about like Deadpool and Wolverine. On the message board, that's more Peter, so, as time moves forward and the mists open up, I think, we'll be seeing more from Peter.
Yeah, really. Really, we're waiting for his film. Talking of which, would you, I don't know how this one ends, how would you like to see more in the franchise? Have you got, seriously, big hopes for Peter going forward?
Here's what I would say. You want to serve the story, right? So if there's a story where Peter would make sense, or if there's a story for Peter, then fantastic. You don't want to just do it just to do it, So if they were able to find a way where it made sense for Peter to step into his own, I'd be all for it.
Absolutely, and of course, so cool for Hugh to be in this film. Him and Ryan together, amazing. What was it like working with those two on this film?
Genuinely very special. Yeah, because they're two of the greatest characters in the history of comic books. And then the films that they've made are just magnificent. And so to see them together is, you're like, oh, that's a big deal on paper. And then when you see it in the flesh, it's just mind-boggling and very, very special.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge with this one?
Biggest challenge, for me, as a thespian, was shooting stuff in the dead of winter that we should have shot in the summer, but the SAG and WGA strike delayed it. So that's one of the biggest things I would say to any young actor out there is what you should do is go to the coldest place you can find and then try to approximate normal human behavior, and then go to the hottest place you can find and try to be normal. That's what real acting is. Not like, my accent, or like, did I feel the orange? No, it's can you pretend that you're not freezing or boiling? If you can do that, clear some space on the shelf for awards.